Welcome to Stars Matter, a recruiting podcast from The Athletic. I'm Mitch Light, joined by Ari Wasserman, national college football reporter. Ari continues to churn out content from our 3-star U study we published last week. He had a column on Texas that was, I was going to say well-received. It was received by Texas fans.
It was received.
We did a mailbag. He's got another story coming on Monday, but we'll get to that later in the show. Ari, good. I was going to say it's good afternoon. Yeah, we're afternoon, so good afternoon, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for the nice little intro there. I like that. I appreciate it. I'm feeling good. I'm ready to do another edition of Stars Matter, and I hope you're reading. And if you're mad about the Texas column, then go to a math professor and yell at him because it's just simple arithmetic.
All right. Also joined by Manny Navarro, our Miami writer and our national recruiting reporter. Manny had an interesting read the other day about how the state of Florida is an actual underrated producer of quarterback talent. Dove into some numbers there. We'll talk about that in a bit. Manny, how you doing today?
Doing great.
And thank you for that succinct response on Link Ari. And we got Grace Rayner, our very part-time Clemson writer, former Clemson beat writer, still keeps an eye on the Clemson Tigers, of course, but focused more of her attention now on the national recruiting scene. Grace is ready to call the Hogs today. She did a story yesterday in The Athletic on Arkansas's recent recruiting run, has Sam Pittman poised to sign the program's best class in modern era. So we will be talking about Arkansas and other things Grace has been working on. But Grace, first of all, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Good to see all of y'all's faces again.
Even Ari's? Yeah, okay. Lukewarm response there. So, but we're going to cover all that stuff. But good show. We're going to talk about the new number one team in the 24/7 Sports Composite. Talk about Penn State's foray into the state of Wisconsin. We're going to talk Colorado's mass exodus, not necessarily recruiting, but it's all related to recruiting, transfers, and all that good stuff.
Can somebody explain to me how that program's going to fill 70 spots in the portal?
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that very soon, Ari. And we're going to review the notable commitments. Like last week, there were a bunch of 4-star blue chip commitments, mailbag, and trivia. We're going to get to Colorado in just a minute. But first, Ari Wasserman, there's a new number one team in the 247 Sports Composite. Do you know who it is?
Yes, it's your Michigan Wolverines.
Yes, it is. 2 commitments yesterday. Top 100 pledge from Brady Prescorn, a tight end from Rochester, Michigan, number 56 overall. The highest tight end for Michigan recruit in modern recruiting history, in the modern era. And then Jared Smith, defensive lineman from Connecticut, number 270 overall. That's now 3 top 100 players in the class, including the 5-star quarterback. So, Ari, we'll start with you. Michigan is a program that's taken up a lot of oxygen on this show over the past couple of years. Some of it bad, more recently good stuff. The fact that they've got 3 top 100 players and a 5-star quarterback, the number one ranking is probably not going to hold. Average player rating isn't good enough, but more positive signs for Michigan. It's got to be, right?
Yeah, I think that the thing that I always laugh about is the celebration of the ranking and not necessarily appreciating what they're doing, because it's like they're not going to sign the number one class this year, but they're also drastically improving from the past year, right? So, they'll focus on, they're number one, yay, that doesn't matter. But what does matter is they've got 3 top 100 players in it. They've got a national prospect at quarterback and Jaden Davis committed. They just got one of the best tight ends in the country from their own state. They have a top 100 player from Ohio, though they're leading for another really good player in Ohio. And this tight end that they got has got to be a freak if he's top 60 player at the tight end position.
Yeah, evidently he is like inline block. He can, Austin wrote about him. He's got all the skill sets to be and I think it's an important point you bring up. To be ranked that high as a tight end, you got to be pretty good.
Yeah, so I like their class that they're putting together. There's no question about it. It's drastically improved. And, I think that, really focusing on where they're ranked is kind of a disservice to the progress. So, I guess,
it's cool.
It's
they're
fun
number
to be
one.
number one.
Cool. Yeah.
It's cool. But in April, what happens when you talk about number one is that everybody looks at the average player ranking and you got the but actuallys. And it's like, don't worry about the but actuallys. Just, appreciate the ride. And this is kind of the direction that I was anticipating Michigan would have taken last year. So, I've always been a believer that Michigan's ceiling is really, really high, like top 5 in college football high. And there's a lot of pushback from that, earlier on in the Jim Harbaugh era because of the academic standards and kind of the way that Michigan runs their program. But, if they can continue this momentum and keep beating Ohio State and, getting quarterbacks like Jaden Davis in the fold and moderately improving year by year, like there's no question that, a program that has all the money, resources, uniform, stadium, geography can do, and of course, academic prowess can do some big things in the sport. So it's kind of fun to see it all, get built up.
Great. So I want to put you on the spot here. Because we talk about a lot when Ari makes fun of me for talking about programs that were good in the 90s, because that's when I was like watching college football and Manny's a few years younger than me, but basically the same generation. So like, I think of Michigan football, like kind of what Ari was saying, like they should be awesome. And, growing up in the Northeast, New Jersey, there's tons of Michigan fans. So I'm very familiar with the program. You're obviously younger, your formative years of college football, ACC country, Michigan hasn't been that good up until recently. Like what are your opinions of Michigan football and its ceiling?
Most Michigan football memory is I think a freshman in high school. I grew up like right by App State, so that's my most formative like Michigan.
So you think they should be in the SoCon basically?
I mean, literally, like a bunch of my friends went to App. I grew up like 45-50 minutes from App. So I was always one of those programs that I felt like should be really good. And last year with their recruiting rankings, Ari, obviously we talked a lot about this, just kind of when they were going to get over the hump. But this is the Michigan that I expected. I didn't follow college football a ton as a kid, but this is the Michigan I expected, but maybe didn't see in my formative years.
Manny, what are your big picture views of Michigan football, being a South Florida guy?
Well, I mean, I think they've always been a legitimate, top 25 program. I just think getting to that championship level has been their hurdle, right? I mean, when I think of Michigan, I think back to Desmond Howard and, those great battles with Ohio State and think back to, the earlier years with Bo Schembechler and to me, that's what I think of Michigan. I think of them always as a blue blood, but I just think they've never been able to hit the heights that Ohio State has in modern day because they haven't recruited at the same level Ohio State has. And obviously this is, I think, a signal that, I don't want to say changing of the guard in the Big Ten, but certainly they're kind of back on that level with Ohio State as far as the kind of talent they're pulling in right now. So to me, I study this always from a geography kind of perspective, Mitch. And I noticed 4 of their commitments are from the state of Ohio. Last year, they signed 4 in Ohio. They're literally going into Ohio's backyard now and Ohio State's backyard and pulling some good players out of there. So to me, it's impressive. It feels like something's definitely changing with this program.
Yeah, Andy, do you think that Michigan could sign 10 top 100 players in a single class ever?
I don't know if they can get 10, but I mean, maybe 6 or 7. I think they could. I mean, they come into Florida quite a bit. Everybody,
it's a national program. Yeah, it's a national program.
I think right now making back-to-back playoff appearances is definitely helped them in terms of being able to go into some living rooms and convince kids to commit.
People used to think I was crazy if you go back and listen to podcasts from the past 2 years before they beat Ohio State once, and I would say Michigan should be signing classes with 7 to 10 top 100 players in it. They should be going toe-to-toe with Ohio State. And everyone thought that like it was just like an impossible, insulting thing to insinuate. And it's like now that it's kind of happening, like I still think there's a long way to go before they're really toe-to-toe with Ohio State. If you look class to class, it's not particularly close still, but it's getting closer. And for a while there, it was getting wider. So, definitely in the right track. And I'm excited to see how this stuff, pans out. When you get a 5-star national quarterback in your class, it's easier to recruit players who want to play with them.
Yeah.
So,
and if they continue to recruit out of the portal, I won't say they're being very selective. They're just getting high-end guys. So you complement that with the recruiting, then you get a lot closer to building an Ohio State type roster.
And they should probably be the favorite to win the Big Ten this year.
Yeah, I think they will be. All right, let's talk about a team that will probably not be the favorite to win the Pac-12, Colorado. I want to roundtable this because we probably all have thoughts on it. And Ari and I actually speaking yesterday about this and a lot of kind of bouncing around some ideas. And I think everyone's excited or thought it was cool that Deion went to Colorado. Like, it's good for college football. We're talking about college football. It's good for business and all that. And I was pretty convinced, or I had an opinion that he was going to do well. Maybe not this year, but like especially with the Pac-12 losing USC and UCLA, that they should be a top tier program in that league with the talent they're bringing in. If I was 80% convinced of that happening a month ago, I'm maybe 50 or 60%. Maybe I'm old school. This past week has been alarming. kind of like Ari joked at the beginning, like, how are they going to field a roster? I know that's just a short-term question, but I think there's something to be said about culture in college football and, running off this many kids. And I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, but even the ones that aren't being run off, they're seeing what's happening in the program, no spots secure. And I'm questioning a little bit the long-term sustainability of this type of program. So let's just go around, Manny. Let's start with you. What are your thoughts on what's happened at Colorado recently? And has it changed your opinion of Deion's ability to win in the long term?
Yeah, well, as a guy who's covering sort of a rebuild down here at Miami and knowing that Mario wanted to run off a bunch of guys, over a span of 18 months, as he sort of got to know this roster, to see Deion sort of do this with the fast forward button on and just kind of holding it and saying, we're just going to do all of this now and pull, kind of rip the Band-Aid off. It has been kind of surprising because I don't know. I mean, at least in my memory, I don't know of any other college coaches who have done it this aggressively. And to me, he's got to know that he's got a lot of players in the bag, so to speak, as far as the transfer portal is concerned, to run off, the amount of guys that he has. Now, look, they were 1-11 last year. None of this should be surprising, right? Like, they were really, really bad. So none of this is like, wow, I can't believe he dumped this guy. But there are some core players that have sort of that were starters for them last year, that were pretty good players that have left. And that's been the little surprise for me. But what I'm interested in now is who he really gets, how many of those guys are already in the portal, or how many of those guys will be putting their name in the portal the next couple of days because those spots are now available. So I'm fascinated by it all. I think it's unprecedented in college football to see a coach sort of go in there and make this much work of his roster this quickly.
Yeah, I mean, fascinated is the right word. I think we're all fascinated. Grace, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you. Fascinating, a little confusing. I think my biggest question is, we've seen, like, through David Ovens reporting, just the way that Deion has parted ways with these kids. Some of them have never had conversations with him. And so I have a lot of questions about his ability to connect with people that he might not necessarily need, but will need down the line, AKA high school coaches.
Yeah.
I think that's such a huge part of recruiting, is like being able to have a relationship with a coach that you don't need now, but might need later. And so that part is just the relational part, I think, is the most alarming part to me.
Yeah. Read all these. You guys know this better than me because you talk to high school coaches, but read all those recruiting confidentials we've done. And the message you get from high school coaches is, yeah, Coach Ari, he knew he didn't have anybody in the class this year for his team, but he came by, sat down with me, and I really appreciated that. So, how big of an influence is that going to have on the type of kids Deion's recruiting, the top 100 guys for the top 2, blue chippers? We don't know. So, but that's a great point. Ari,
you mentioned something in the beginning, your preamble, that I think is interesting. It's like, I don't know. I still think that culture is important in college, right? And I don't think that anybody is disagreeing with that, but I think that what he's doing is eradicating the poor culture, right? Like, that's what he's doing. He's getting rid of the losing aspect of the program because the talent wasn't high enough, and replacing it with his guys who will then form the culture that he anticipates having at Colorado. So I think the thing that's most shocking about this is it's not that it happens everywhere. It just doesn't happen to this scale. And, I don't know if this makes me feel like I'm more or less think he's going to win or lose. I don't think that's to happen. I just don't know if mathematically how this is going to work, because, like, how many, like, does anybody know their scholarship count? Do they have like 20 guys on scholarship right now?
I think it's in the mid-20s right now.
So if it's in the mid-20s right now, are you saying that he's got to go sign over 50 players in the portal?
Well, I think there's some incoming freshmen.
Right.
Is it 20 including the freshmen?
I think the number is closer to the mid-40s. I think.
Yeah.
Of how many they have.
Okay, so they're gonna have to go get 40 to 45 guys in the portal during a time in which the portal is much. It's not as deep as it was.
Slimmer pickings.
Yes.
Right.
So it's like, if Colorado's roster was that bad that you can take 40 guys or 45 guys out of the portal now and improve it, then I think that he did his job. But also too, it's like, what's Deion Sanders' runway for success here? Because, like, they're going to stink this year. Like, I don't think that that's even a hot take. Even if they have guys like Cormani McLean coming in, like and you would know this more than I would, but he's like not supposed to be a day one Travis Hunter producer,
Right.
you know, and I know they have Travis Hunter and I know they have Shedeur Sanders and, you know, a few of the other guys that they signed in last year's class. But like, when you think about the depth and the bodies that you need to win at a high level in this sport, Colorado doesn't even have the bodies. So, you know, the one thing that I don't appreciate about him is he went on the Pat McAfee show on Wednesday, and McAfee said, "You got 41 guys in the portal," and he goes, "That only that much?" Like, it's almost like it's just the way he talks, it's like kind of disrespectful to me, like of just like, these are kids that are just trying, and I know they're compensated. I know they've got more power now.
But some of the guys, I want to butt in there because continue your thought. Like, a lot of the guys he's running off aren't compensated.
Yeah.
They're just 3-star kids who were clawing their way. Maybe were a rotational offensive lineman in Colorado. They're not making money from NIL, and wherever they go, they're not making money from NIL. They're just getting run off.
Yeah, and if they get run off, that's part of the game now. Like, as much as we don't want to accept the professionalization of college football, it is what it is. Like, and I saw that Colorado offered these kids the ability to remain on scholarship at the university, just not be on the team anymore.
They have to,
yeah. So, you know, and people want to go pursue other options and play sport. And like, he was hired to win, and you have to do this to win. I just don't think that we've ever seen it happen this quickly and this drastically. So it's kind of a shock to the system. And I'm not necessarily sure I believe that everybody that he gets in the portal is going to be an improvement over what he ran off. So to me, I'm more concerned about, you know, how he's going to fill out his roster in the fall, more so than I am about the, you know, I don't know if I feel like he's more likely to fail now as a result of it because of culture, because he's going to tell his guys, like Andy said on the show yesterday, those weren't my guys, you're my guys. And then you form the culture with your guys.
Yeah. So, and I don't know the kid's name. I think he was actually the lead to David Ubben's story, the tight end, maybe was a Colorado legacy. Like, and call me
as an offensive tackle, I thought.
Call me corny, whatever. But like, how many stories do you hear? Like, a team that goes to a bowl game in third year under a coach, and they go 7-5. They were 2-10 the first 2 years, and the guys are like, "We stayed with it. You know, we came in here. We won 4 games our first 2 years, and we built a bond with these guys, and we grew up together." Like, that kid specifically, he's a Colorado legacy. Don't you think he's going to bust his ass for Deion in Colorado? And just discard him like that, it just kind of rubs me the wrong way. Like, I think you think you can build a culture with some poor players who want to be there. There's probably some guys on scholarship there who were just on scholarship. They went to Colorado, like, you know what, this is a cool place. Team sucks. I'll get a free education. Those are the guys you don't want in your locker room. But I'm sure there were some guys in there that were busting their ass and would love to have stayed. And maybe they wouldn't have contributed that much, but they would have contributed to maybe trying to build a winning culture.
I think Deion's doing this in a way that so many other coaches wish they could do it. You know, he's kind of gone in there, like you said, and just it's about his culture and wanting to set the stage. I think Mario Cristobal a year ago would have loved to have done the same thing, but I don't think he had the confidence that the school would necessarily back him paying for 70 kids to go to school for free. You know, so I think he's just more brash about it, and I think there's a lot of other coaches who wish they could have done what he's done in their first year.
Yeah, also too, like those heartwarming stories that you see on College Game Day usually are with teams that have lost 7 games in a year. Like, you don't hear that with teams that are very often, like Alabama doesn't have the heartwarming legacy who happens to be on scholarship who worked really hard and then in year 4
not a lot
made
of
a
programs
tackle.
like Alabama though.
No, I know.
Colorado
but
is not.
But Colorado. So what's Colorado's ceilings? Utah?
I mean,
like, is that what they should be? Utah?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Oregon
with Deion Sanders, and if things go well, it's to be the best, one of the top 2 or 3 programs in the new look Pac-12.
I just don't think that Deion Sanders thinks like that.
Yeah, that's
like,
fine.
And I love that
my opinion. He's got his opinion. You know,
but I know that you
opinion is the one that matters.
Have like that, like, you know, student athlete, like you love the movie Rudy, right? Like, it's
I've never seen Rudy.
Really, you would really like it. I think you might even cry.
No, I wouldn't. You know why?
Because he's a Ponzi scheme and he rips people off financially.
Because I grew up, and I don't anymore. I grew up hating Notre Dame, so I wasn't going to watch any Notre Dame propaganda. So that's why I've never seen Rudy.
Well, did you know what he did? Right.
I know the story.
This whole financial scam. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I know all about Rudy. Partly from you, but I know all about it. So.
Yeah, you should go read about the Ponzi scheme he created and all the people he stole from. Yeah,
is that why you asked me to invest some money before the show?
Yeah, I asked. I'll do that.
Yeah. Grace, do not listen to Ari's
Grace, I need
advice on-
$2,000. Can I borrow some?
Yeah. Well, no, actually, after
I'll
tomorrow,
turn it into
after,
$8,000 by next week.
after,
what do you
the,
think
after the
tomorrow?
first round of the draft, you might need more than $2,000.
You might need a house after the first round of the draft.
Yeah. Next week, if Ari's doing Stars Matter from like a public park in Dallas, outside, things maybe.
If I'm still in
well.
Dallas next week, things went really, really
Oh
wrong.
yes, because Ari's supposed to be on vacation with his wife. So okay,
yeah.
So can we close the book on Deion for now? I'm sure we will talk about him in future episodes.
Sure, but yeah, it's there's no ever closing the book. We'll just put a bookmark in there from the Scholastic Book Fair.
Yeah, Grace, Grace, are you ready to call the Hogs?
Yeah, let's do it.
Have you ever seen an Arkansas basketball or football game in person, Grace? Have you ever been
No.
amongst the hog calling? I probably
No.
have
Do
20
it.
times in my life.
Do
It
it.
is quite the scene. They do it.
Do it.
I'm not going to call the Hogs. I'll
Do it.
you
All.
know. the best part about it is
I'm
when
wearing
they
a maroon. So
the best part is when they hire a new coach, and the coach gets up in the press conference with his family, and they call the Hogs. It's like the most awkward thing ever because the person's never done it before.
Never
and
done
it's
it, that'd
just-
be me.
yeah, it's no. I've been to several, many Arkansas games in my life. So Grace published on Wednesday morning a story on Arkansas, and you don't see too many programs of their spot in the food chain. They got 3 blue chip commitments on one day last Friday. This is not just look at Arkansas. They're on a little run and they're going to be in the top 15 for a week or two. Like this might have some staying power, Grace, this class based on their average player rating. This could be their best class in modern recruiting history.
Yeah, that was the part that I thought was the most impressive is not necessarily that they've got 9 commits now. And we talked about this last week, how I wish 24/7 would rank the teams by their average player rating as opposed to just how many commits they have.
Okay. If Ari said that, I would yell at him and say, just take 5 minutes, Grace, do the math, write it down, sort it. Okay.
I
See,
did.
Ari, I will yell at Grace too. She just doesn't do much to get yelled at.
Grace is right though. So I don't know what you would yell at.
I had to go do the because 24/7's broken past 08. So I had to calculate their average player rating in 2003 on my calculator. It was
Ooh.
9th grade again. But yeah, I think they've made a lot of progress sort of quietly. They picked up, as you said, Mitch, 3 blue chippers in one day last week, which I thought was really impressive. They've gotten into Alabama and Mississippi, which I think has been interesting. And Sam Pittman's just kind of on a roll right now. And I think it's fascinating just given the current recruiting landscape.
Yeah, their class very SEC footprint-ish, which you'd expect, like Arkansas, Texas, Mississippi, and Alabama. Okay, we do this a lot on the show. We just talked about with Colorado, like their place. I find Arkansas a fascinating program because it is in the SEC. Their fans, like most programs in the SEC, expect to win at a very high level. They have amazing facilities. They have great fans support. They have everything you need, except they're in a state that does not produce a lot of talent. They only have 4 blue chippers in the entire state. They have won the SEC West 3 or 4 times, but they haven't recently. It's sort of like South Carolina, although South Carolina has access to more players, closer, in state, and then Georgia and Florida and all that stuff. So, what are you guys' thoughts on Arkansas's ceiling? Are they just stuck in a division with too many superpowers? Again, I'm rambling, but it's a fascinating program to me.
I think Arkansas could be a team that surprises one year and wins the division and gets to the SEC title game. Look, Alabama, right? We talk about Nick Saban's age all the time. When you look at the rest of the SEC West, obviously LSU is there. I know the Mississippi schools, but the reality is when they go to this new 16-team format, right? And I don't know what division they're going to end up being in. Why couldn't they surprise one day and get there? They've done it in the past. I don't think they're a national championship caliber program, but I certainly think they could be a 12-team playoff. Make a 12-team playoff one year.
Well, that's the beauty of the 12-team, Manny. Everyone gets in.
Yeah, especially in the SEC, right?
My Pop Warner team could get into the 12-team playoff.
That'd be an accomplishment, though. Would we not look at Arkansas a little different if they made a 12-team playoff?
I would.
I think I would look at them the exact same way. Yeah. Okay.
which is what
I think
Yeah,
that
what's
the
so
perception,
what's your perception of Arkansas?
My perception of Arkansas is that they are in a really tough spot geographically.
Mhm.
And like in Grace's story and the point that she made that they're dipping into other places, but it's like every player that they want, even in their home state, is going to be contested by 5 or 6 schools. It's like I actually think you can make a case that Arkansas might have the least advantageous geography of anybody in the country when it comes to competition. Like there's different rankings of like, are you in the boonies out in the middle of nowhere? Sure, that I'd much rather be in Arkansas than in eastern Idaho or whatever. But I think that they have a battle for everybody all the time. And it's just like, there's some schools that just don't have that problem. I think that they are definitely a top 25 program, a top 30 program in the country. And, it's funny, even when they were really, really terrible, their roster still was in the top 20 nationally. So like they've always done a pretty good job of accumulating talent and not having a really bad roster. I just don't know if there's ever any shortcuts or ease to anything that they do. And whenever you have a ease problem, that kind of trickles down into your program, I think. Does that make sense? Like,
yes, everything's hard for them.
Everything's thinking like everything is harder for you. And if everything is harder for you, it's harder to be elite. Yeah. But also Sam Pittman is like beloved by everybody. So, maybe he'll be the guy that pulls them out of it. But like going back to the playoff discussion, it's like if a team makes it as the 9 seed, then gets their ass kicked in the second round by a really good team, like it's the same exact thing as not making the playoff now. It's just we changed the scorecard a little bit, So my perception of programs isn't going to change because they get in by default. My perception of programs is only going to change if they advance into the playoff field and get to the Final Four.
Yeah, isn't the perception that Sam Pittman's just awesome? Everyone loves him. Great hire.
Yeah, but
doing a great job.
Also, too, this year, go ahead.
His record in the SEC the last 2 years is 7-9. So like it just tells you how hard it is.
And Arkansas fans, I think, expect like 10-2 every year. Like I don't think that they are super rational about going 6-6.
That's what I mean. They're like an SEC fan base. They expect big things. Again, it's a beautiful place, Northwest Arkansas. Fayetteville's a cool place to go to school, and they have great facilities. And so they're thinking. Grace is working on a story for a couple, maybe next month, about NC State. And I think the perception there is like, why not us? We've got everything we need. Well, Arkansas, same thing. They're like, why not us? We've got everything we need. And there's a lot of programs that are like that. And it's just, but RI makes a really good point about the geography. It's just like everything is a battle for them. And
in 2021, I think they started off, 2021, they started off 4-0.
And then they went to Georgia, right? Or is that the season they started with Georgia?
No, they were 4-0. They beat A&M 20-10. And like they were like a tough, because like the thing that I like about Arkansas is that they're kind of like trying to be built a little bit like Michigan a little bit in the South there, where they're just tough, hard-nosed offensive lineman mentality. And I was like, they were catching 21 points when they went to Georgia the next week. And I was convinced that week. You can go back and listen to the Andy show. That Arkansas had the like grit and like the physicality to like hang with Georgia because they're like, they got KJ Jefferson, things are going to be good. Their offensive line is tough as hell. They'll be able to move the ball, manage the clock. And I financially invested in that idea. And I think the score at the end of it was 21-0 at the end of the first quarter. And I just was like, I am such a moron. But I do think that I could buy into like Arkansas isn't a hopeless place by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay. If you guys discount South Carolina's recruiting at a better level than Arkansas this year. So try not to let that cloud your opinion. If you're a head coach and there's no divisions in the SEC, where would you pick to coach, Arkansas or South Carolina? Start with you, Grace.
I'd pick South Carolina strictly because of the talent in my immediate backyard. Like Charlotte's not far. Atlanta's not that far.
Biased.
I'd go South Carolina. Yeah.
You're biased.
Greenville Homer. Manny.
I'd go with Arkansas because I don't have Clemson in my backyard, right? I mean, people still think Clemson's the best team in the state. So I would think, not having to deal with that would make me want to go to Arkansas.
Starting today?
Yeah.
Like I get to make the decision based on everything I know right now. South Carolina.
Okay. Why'd you say like right now? Like what's
if you would have asked me to be the head coach at South Carolina when Clemson was at its peak, I'd be like,
okay.
I'd be like,
yeah, I agree. I would have picked Arkansas like 3 years ago for sure.
But like now seeing that Shane Beamer actually is doing it, I think
Yeah, I don't know. I asked the question, and I think I would. That's what they're very similar.
I don't know what's going to happen to Clemson. Grace has to help me out with this. It's like
yeah,
they go
Grace, tell us what's going to happen to Clemson.
They hire like this awesome offensive coordinator, and it's like, are they going to go rock shit again and win the national championship game, or is this the long trip down the poop chute? Like, I don't know which one it is.
I just think when push comes to shove, like if Clemson really wants somebody in South Carolina, aren't they going to get him?
Ooh, you got to read Grace's work, Manny.
They missed out on a couple of to South Carolina this year, but generally
the top 2 players in South Carolina are committed to South Carolina right now.
Right now, we'll see.
Ooh, Manny predicting a flip. What do you know?
I don't think they're going to flip. Grace, do you?
No, I don't think they'll flip.
All right. Well,
I mean, that's just yes. I don't know.
I mean, Clemson's on their 9th quarterback right now. Like, can you I'm going to say that again. How many quarterbacks have they recruited so far this class, Grace?
4.
If you win it tallied up
the guy you fell in love with, but he didn't go up there. What was his name?
House
Haney.
TCU.
Which I may or may not have called him something like Haas Hedgeny on the podcast in the past. But then
how are you supposed to know how to pronounce his name? It's okay.
No, I should have asked someone.
There's 25,000. I didn't know how to pronounce his name until I asked. So
okay, well, good for you.
Good job, Barry.
So we've been talking about Arkansas, South Carolina. The number one player, we talked about how great Arkansas is doing in state. The number one player in Arkansas is Walker White, who's going to Auburn. Over
did
Clemson.
They even recruit him?
I'm sure they
Arkansas?
did. Because they got their quarterback after him. I mean,
yeah, they just got a quarterback.
Remember when you did that? I think you were getting a Clemson story ready for it when you thought you might go to Clemson. I assume they recruited him. We could go to his profile, but
I'm the one who knocks.
Yeah. There's an interesting dynamic. Ari has yet to write about this kid, but will be doing so at some point soon. Daniel Kalins, kid from Omaha. He's from Nebraska.
I got to call you about that. Should I write that today?
We'll talk about that after the show. Okay.
I like bringing in like a production meeting.
Yeah, now the sausage is made.
I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. And I got a vacation to get ready for, and you're just like really making it hard for me right now.
I don't know how to talk to you about your story ideas while your shirt's on, Ari. So
I'll take the tarp off for you.
That's okay. We might have an HR program. This is on YouTube too, so as well. So Daniel Kalin's a quality kid, quality 3-star quarterback, ranked 509. Who knows? Might go up, might go down in the rankings. In most years, I would think, Ari, he's a Nebraska priority. He's going to stay in state, but he committed to Missouri in large part because Missouri was. You okay there, Ari?
Sorry, Indians just hit a home run.
The Guardians, first of all.
Guardians. You're gonna have to take 30 years of programming away out of my brain for me to remember that. But yeah,
I know. So, did you hear a word I said?
You were talking about the quarterback. You were talking about Kalin.
Yeah, Daniel Kalin. In most years, how he would probably maybe be a Nebraska commit would have been a priority there, but they put a lot of their eggs. They put 97% of their eggs in the Dylan Raiola basket. And you kind of talked to Daniel, I believe, about that dynamic and his decision to go out of state. He's currently committed, or he is committed to Missouri.
Yeah. So there's 2 stories here, Mitch. One is what's Nebraska supposed to do in this scenario? They go all in for the generational guy that they wouldn't get any other year. They've got family connections. They go all in. But in the process, they're honest with Kalin about the idea that they're going for. And Daniel said that he knows that, and like they were fine with about it. Like the fact that just like was a weird year, and maybe in another year he might have ended up at Nebraska and understands that everybody in Nebraska loves and cares a lot about them, but that it didn't work out for him. So it's like there's nobody really to blame here or to criticize here, because it's like I'm not going to criticize Nebraska for going after the home run, but I'm also not going to criticize Nebraska for not getting the home run. So he's committed to Missouri, and Missouri has done a tremendous job of identifying a player in the state of Nebraska that's not being prioritized, and went and got him. So the story is Nebraska going to regret this? I guess is a certain angle to it. And is he going to go be awesome at Missouri? And then everyone from Omaha or from Nebraska who's like still kind of salty. I think that Zane Flores, went to Oklahoma State. Like, it's just going to be the latest thing in that trend. And would that be fair to do so? And then the other one is, of course, congratulations to Nebraska for putting up a really good fight and, being alive in the Raiola recruitment. And like, I need to figure out how to write that all in one.
Yeah.
So I need you to help me with that.
Okay, we'll talk afterwards. It's a interesting dynamic because, like Manny, like if you're a head coach there, like do you go all in on the guy? And I'm sure they think or thought. I mean, the tea leaves seem to be pointing towards Georgia now, but I'm sure at some point they were pretty confident they had a good shot at Dylan Raiola. Do you go all in on that? Like this isn't, I'm sure they have their own evaluation of Kalen as well. Maybe they don't think he's just. Maybe if they thought he was better than his ranking, they would have gone after him more. But I'm sure you see this a lot in South Florida with a lot of kids that probably think they're quote unquote entitled to go to Miami, but Miami might be prioritizing someone else. I just think it's a really interesting dynamic that the coaches have to play in recruiting, especially now. Especially now more than ever. Like 10, 15 years ago, when kids were committing a month before signing day, you could play kids off during the entire process. But now kids are committing a year early, 10 months early. You got to make a decision.
Yeah, I think you always go for the home run, right? I mean, I think Nebraska played this the right way. You got to go after the number one player in the country, and you could always backtrack or go to the transfer portal if you strike out. I mean, Miami basically did the same thing with Aaron Nolan, right? I mean, they were all in on him. He was going to be their guy. And then the moment it looked like he wasn't coming here, they pivoted and went to plan B. So I have no problem with Nebraska doing that. That was their best play in the long run. And, maybe this kid turns out to be a star down the road and you regret it because he signs elsewhere. But if they're able to make him flip, just as good.
Yeah. Coach Grace, you might be the nicest person on the podcast.
She's very nice.
Yeah. So
although she wasn't very happy to see me today.
No.
Yes,
Are you?
That is not true.
So Coach
you said
Grace,
meh. So
yeah. Are you just like, Daniel, you're a nice kid. You're from Nebraska. Come on down. This other kid's from Arizona. We don't like him. What's Coach Grace doing in this case?
I'm with Manny. I think they played it correctly, especially with the family connection. Like, I always like it when teams swing big. I think you have to swing big when you've got a family connection. So I don't hate it. And especially with Matt Rule in year one, like I'd rather go down swinging and set that precedent than not try at all.
If Nebraska would have hired Matt Rule and then they would have bitched out and just taken the easy one, my Twitter term would have been on fire.
Is that an official term?
Bitched out.
Are you okay? By the way, you're making a lot of noises. There's like there's stuff going on here.
I've got a tickle in my throat.
Yeah, well, we can hear it. Believe me.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, no, absolutely would be bitching out if you didn't try to go so generational opportunity. Like how many times are you gonna have the number one overall player in the country who happens to have these family ties to Nebraska? If you didn't go all in and tell everybody else he's our priority, and then you just went and got the layup. And I'm not saying that he wouldn't be a great quarterback. Like Daniel Kalen might be awesome at, in 3 years, you might hear an ESPN broadcast about how he's a Heisman finalist and, Nebraska messed it up. You never know how a kid's career is going to turn out, but Matt Rule did the right thing. So it's I don't know if Nebraska's staff played it right with Zane Flores last year. And that one might be oh my God, Nebraska really messed that up. But in 3 years, if they don't have Kalen or Raiola or 2 years and he's really awesome, I don't think I think that might be the story of good job, Mizzou, but this isn't Nebraska's fault.
Yeah. Speaking of quarterbacks that we write about, that I read the story that you guys write, I'm like, man, this guy's going to be really, really good. It happens every week. This week's edition was from Manny on Trevor Jackson, a 3-star quarterback from Florida, and I'm not alone because he got an invite to the Elite 11, and those are coveted, and some other high profile quarterbacks at the camp that he was at did not get invited. So you wrote about Trevor, but you kind of led that into what I want to talk about is the state of Florida and its quarterback production, because I guess I'd never really thought about it, but you're right. I think the perception is that, Florida's great for skill players and some beastly defensive linemen, but maybe not quarterbacks over the years. And it's funny because they have produced quarterbacks, and most of them are kind of 3-stars who have developed.
Yeah, I mean, they're not a lot of 5-star or even 4-star quarterbacks that come out of the state of Florida for whatever reason. They just, they're not sort of respected coming out of the high school ranks, and yet you look at some of the results here. I was stunned just because I looked this up just because the draft is coming up this week, and I didn't realize this, but since 2010, the only state that's produced more first-round picks at quarterback than Florida is Texas. And that's kind of surprising, right? When you think about California and Georgia and all the great QBs that they've produced over the years.
Idaho.
What's that?
Idaho? I don't think so.
Idaho, no. But yeah, I mean, Anthony Richardson, who went to Gainesville East Side, is going to be the next one. He'll be the 7th first-round pick. Can you guys name the other 6, by the way? This is a good trivia point. Can you name the other 6 Florida products that have been first-round picks in the NFL draft?
How far back are we going?
Back to 2010.
It was in your story, right?
Yep, it was in my story, yep. One of them, I'll give you a hint. One of them quarterbacked Alabama.
Mac Jones.
That's one.
I mean, I read the story.
I didn't know Mac Jones was from Florida till right now.
Jacksonville.
So.
Yeah, from Jacksonville.
I read the story and did the chart. Yeah, he's from Jacksonville. One of them was a 2-star who played at a group of 5 school.
Yes.
Is he out of the league now, Manny?
Malik Willis?
One of them is
Not Malik Willis.
No, you're thinking of Paxton Lynch.
Yes. No, I knew who it was. I was teasing these guys.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And
one of them was the NFL MVP.
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar.
Yep.
Oh, I should have known Lamar. Can you how many more do we have left here, Manny?
One of them's very famous.
Well, you got 4. One of them won a Heisman. One of them was drafted by the Vikings, another one by the Jaguars. I'll give you the teams. That should help you.
Is Tebow on there?
Tebow is correct. That's one of them. He was the lone 5-star, by the way. All right, the other 2
I know. I think I know. Teddy Bridgewater.
That's one, correct.
Is he one?
Yep. Yeah. Miami Northwestern.
How many more left do we have?
One.
What do we have? 1 left.
And you said Jacksonville?
Mm-hmm.
There's only one person it could be. Because if it's not Lawrence, then the only one I can think of is Blake Bortles.
That's correct.
Where's he from?
I don't know.
Bortles was from, I think, Ocala, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Interesting.
But kind of interesting anyway that, Florida doesn't have much of a reputation for putting out quarterbacks. And if you look at last year's top 30 quarterback rankings, you had 4 guys from the state of Florida in there, which was actually tied with North Carolina for the most.
Yeah, isn't Penix from Florida?
Penix is, yep, that's one.
And Pratt from Tulane's from Florida too.
Correct. And then Florida State's quarterback, who of course signed with Louisville, and transferred Jordan Travis.
Yeah.
And the other one was James Madison's Todd Centennial. So, I mean, either way, I mean, it to me, it kind of was a little surprising stat, and I thought, why not attach this to a recruiting story on maybe the next good quarterback to come out of the state.
So I'm going to transition.
Andy, you're a stud with the stats, man. I'll give you that. Like, you are a stud with the stats.
Wait till the story comes out later in the week.
What do you have coming out later in the week? You got more stats, stud?
He's got more geography.
More geography for you guys, yeah.
Yeah, he will tease a little research about kind of a formula, which states not produce.
Whoa, did you guys hear that?
What is that?
Yeah, that was pretty loud. You got a storm out there.
It's a thunderstorm, and I have to shower after this. What, is that a myth? Are you allowed to shower when it's lightning?
I mean,
I'm gonna risk it for the biscuit. I smell bad. That was loud. I'm nervous.
That was loud. I heard
it. Twins.
Good luck, buddy. Forgot what I was talking about. I think we were talking about college football recruiting, but not really.
Geography, geography.
Yeah. So it's like we know that like Texas and Georgia and California produce the best talent, but Manny has a formula of assigning values to like 5 stars versus top 100 kids versus blue chips versus top 1,000. So kind of a formula which state's producing in this class, 2024 class, is producing the most talent. So that'll be out later in the week. But I want to transition because Trevor Jackson, who you wrote about, I think the day after it published or the day it published, got a Penn State offer. And Penn State has done very well. It's done a nice little run in recruiting, which should continue Friday. But they're still looking for a quarterback. And there's rumors that Michael Van Buren, the kid from Baltimore, who they serenaded on his birthday, is going to commit to Oregon this week. That's kind of the word on the street. And so Samaj Jones from Philly is a target. And I looked this up. They have not signed a blue chip in-state quarterback since 2010. I think it was Paul Jones. So now they're after Samaj Jones and Trevor Jackson. So it'd be just interesting how the quarterback dominoes are falling. But they are going into Wisconsin. On Friday, they're expected to get Corey Smith, a running back. That'll be their 3rd Wisconsin commit in the past few weeks. I think they've only got 1 Wisconsin player on their entire roster. So we talk a lot about geography. We were just talking about geography. Ari, a couple years ago, they made headlines. Wisconsin made headlines by getting Nolan Rucci from Penn State. Just kind of strange that, I guess, maybe coincidence or whatever, that they're going into Wisconsin nowadays.
Yeah, definitely a coincidence. I mean, I don't know if it's like, it'd be cool if it was like revenge of the
recruiting revenge. That's our next series, the recruiting
Star
revenge.
Wars 39, Revenge of the Sith. Is that what it was called? I don't watch that stuff though. Revenge of something, but yeah, no, Penn State's doing a really nice job.
That's all you got?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
Like I that's the thing with Penn State. Like everybody
Ari
thinks I'm a hater.
refuses to acknowledge Penn State.
No, everybody thinks I'm a hater, but like it's like,
Are they
what am I
just there?
supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Like they're recruiting fine. They got a 90.44 average player ranking. They've got 12 commitments. There's only one player in the top 100. Like they're doing great. You know, I mean, it's not transcendent and it's not bad. They're just like in that same Penn State level that they are, and they'll probably end up finishing with a class that ranks in between 7 and 12, or 10 and 15. I don't know, like what they usually do, and they'll be Penn State. Like you have this thing with James Franklin because you saw what he did at Vanderbilt up close, and I respect that. Like doing what he did at Vanderbilt, knowing more about Vanderbilt and how hard it is, like that's great. But like the proportion, it's not proportionate how much he's improved Penn State is what he did to Vanderbilt, right? And it's like you still think that he's one of the top 5 coaches in college football, and it's like I don't see that. So
I don't know if I've ever said that, but
you are obsessed with this guy.
You have
not nearly as much in your house.
Not nearly as much as you think.
You got all those pages in the Hustler behind you there. I don't know if there's anything about Franklin in there, but like it's I mean, I don't know. Like, what's the analysis?
So,
tell me if I'm wrong. What's the analysis of Penn State that I'm getting wrong?
I think that's why, and I want Grace and Manny to chime in. And this is sort of like, I don't know, this wasn't supposed to be like state of the program analysis. We're bouncing around like, where's this program's lot in life? But I think that's the frustration of many Penn State fans. Like, you've got to acknowledge, if you're a Penn State fan, that he's done a good job. I mean, there's no doubt they're a consistent winner. They don't, other than the pandemic year, I think that they've been, one of the top 15, 20 teams in the country. They recruit at a pretty good level, but they're in a division with Ohio State and Michigan, and they haven't broke through. They won one Big Ten title. Like an SEC fan base, they expect great things. So I just think they're kind of, like Ari said, they're just sort of there. It's almost like they'd be, if they weren't as good, then they could just make a coaching change and swing for the fences. But they've got this guy who clearly does a good job, but many of them think it's not good enough. Is that a fair assessment, Grace, do you think, of Penn State football?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think you hit it right on the head. Like they are what they are every year. And I don't know that we're particularly surprised either way. Like, good, solid, ready to declare them a playoff team? Probably not.
Like last year, they go 10-2 and they lose to Ohio State and Michigan. Like that's got to be the most frustrating thing.
Every Penn State fan in the world wants that to not be the case at least once out of every 5 years.
Yeah.
And they did it once in 2016. They won the Big Ten. They would have made the playoff, but they lost to Pitt that year, I think. In the beginning of the year, they didn't get to go to the playoff. I know it was a big point of contention because Ohio State went, even though they lost head-to-head to Penn State on the field. But it's just like you got to get over the hump sometimes. It's like you can maintain. And that's why, like, when he got that 10-year deal or whatever, or he got one of those guaranteed contracts. I was like, wow, like this was like, I bet you if you did a random poll of 1,000 Penn State fans of, would you like to see a new coach in there from a new perspective to shake it up and see if somebody can take what James Franklin built in terms of the sturdiness of the program and get them over the top, a large portion of the fans would probably want that. I know John Hayes, our producer, is a Penn State guy, and I don't know that he's enamored with James Franklin anymore. And it's like, you can sit back here and talk about Penn State and the 2 kids that they got out of Wisconsin, and one's a top 150 player, Donovan Harbor. He's a 6'3", 310-pound monster. Like, that's a great get, but like, you got to show me something like in totality before I start banging the drum. Like Michigan's class this year, it's not an Alabama class by any stretch of the imagination, but it's significantly improved from what we've seen from them so far. And like, that's why we're talking about it. But like, you want me to get up and clap for the number 13 class in the country? I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. So call me a Penn State hater, but like, it's the truth.
Manny, what say you?
Well, I just think, I know Ari's not a fan of the 12-team playoff. He'd prefer, if you're not a 4-team.
Well, they're the.
But my guess is Penn State. Like, if you were to guess, right, and say, okay, you're going to divide the pie every single year, and these are the teams you can count on to make the playoff every single year, right? Maybe 3 or 4 Big Ten teams, maybe 5 SEC teams or whatever. Penn State's going to be in the playoff every year, right? I mean, under James,
they're the greatest beneficiary of it. Of
right.
The expanded playoff.
There's no question. To me, and I think that might change their perception a little bit if they're in the playoff every single year. Right now, they can't even get to the Big Ten title game.
You're hurting my heart right now, Manny, because I'm gonna have to hit you. I'm telling you. That's the reason why I hate the expanded playoff, is because we're reassigning what success is instead of demanding teams get better.
But
so
I'm talking about
Penn State will be
perception.
I'm saying the public perception is that the game changed. They didn't do anything better.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is, in a couple years, like this stuff about why does James Franklin have a 10-year contract? He can't even get his team to the playoff. That's going to change for him now. Like, you can't change that narrative.
The rules are different. We allowed more teams in. It doesn't mean he did anything better. They're the same team. They're going to be the same 9-3 team or 10-2 team that loses to Ohio State, Michigan every year, and then they'll get into the playoff. They might win a first-round game against Tulane, and they're going to get their asses kicked. Like, it's just, I want to see. I mean, it's true. Like, all these teams, it's like it's going to be. I've never been to a meat factory. I love ground beef, but it's going to be a cow walking into the slaughterhouse, and all these teams are like, "Oh my God, we made the college football playoff! We're gonna have a good time." And then shoot, it's gonna hit right as the lightning hit, boom, right into Alabama, and they're gonna get their asses kicked. And it's like, does my perception of the program change once they get to that point because we altered the rules so that everybody can love everybody? No, it's not. I hate the playoff.
I think for guys like you and me who obviously do this for a living, I think we understand that. I think the general fans won't. I think it'll be different in public perception when they're in the playoff every single year versus not even getting an invite to the dance. I think it's just
a participation trophy,
right? But it'll help them. It'll help them look better.
Ari, what's your favorite steak? Kind of steak?
I like a ribeye, medium rare. I'm not like Deshaun who eats belts. You know, he gets like well done belts and just gnaws out the leather.
Yeah, Manny, what about you?
Filet medium.
Okay, Grace?
Filet medium rare.
Ooh.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah. What up, Mitch?
Mitch doesn't eat beef.
I'm going out to dinner tonight for my anniversary. I think I'm getting a steak. So
where are you going?
A place called the Rutledge House.
I got to show you this.
Place?
There's this little speakeasy in Nashville called Patterson's. Have you heard of this
Patterson
place?
House? Patterson House. I think.
Whatever it is. Okay. Me and Britt went there on our first date. Steamy in there. Like, it's like you got the low lighting. They got the little.
It's our 25th anniversary. We don't need, we're not, this isn't a first date.
Accidentally ate gluten and then got sick.
I know.
But yeah, then, it was really, really hot for like the first 40 minutes we were in there, and then we had to leave. Until she turned into Augustus Gloop from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, but I'm a 2-time employee at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, so it's amazing how well, like a restaurant like that, when all they do pretty much is steaks, how those cooks, the whatever chefs, the masters. I mean, they get like 30 steaks on, and they're all cooked perfectly, and they just
You still work at Ruth's Chris?
I worked at Ruth's Chris twice. Yeah, I loved it. I was a busboy. I was great. All city.
Are you going to go for a third time after this, or?
I hope not. I hope not. I worked between my junior and senior year in college. I lived in Nashville. A bunch of guys. We lived in a house near campus, and I just worked at Ruth's. Took a summer school class and worked at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. It was great.
What was the actual day of your anniversary?
April. It was yesterday, Tuesday.
Wow,
Tuesday night.
I didn't wish you a happy anniversary. I didn't know that.
Grace did.
What time's your dinner reservation tonight?
I'm not telling why. I feel like
I'm just curious. What time is it at?
6:30.
I'm filing my story on Daniel Kalin around 6:45.
Okay,
it needs to be up by the morning.
I'll bring my laptop. Sorry, Heather. Yeah, this story. I already talked to the kid 2 weeks ago, but he just decided to file the story today.
Yeah, no, I wasn't doing anything else the last 2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah. Was that a little more thunder?
I'm actually kind of nervous because my mother-in-law is bringing home our baby from daycare, and it looks like the apocalypse out there.
Okay. Well, you've been mean to me, so your house is going to get struck by lightning. It's going to be karma.
You can hear that, though, right?
We heard the last one. Yeah.
Mike says, Ari, stop making so much noise. Okay, Mike, I'll stop existing.
That was a half hour ago when you were like breathing into the microphone and
like the Zodiac Killer?
Yes.
when he used to call people's houses and just breathe.
you know, we've my fear of bears is well documented. But when I was like 8 years old, I saw something on a Zodiac killer, and I know it's not like a lot of people are scared of serial killers because they kill people, but like that freaked me out. That movie, I've read the book Zodiac. Have you guys seen the movie?
Yeah. I've listened to a lot of podcasts about it, and it irritates me that we'll never know who it is.
I know. Grace, thoughts on Zodiac?
I can't do it. I can't do scary.
Oh, so you have no theories on who it is?
No, I haven't even seen it or read it.
Okay.
I thought it was Arthur Lee Allen, but it turned out that it wasn't him.
There was one theory that it was the Unabomber. You know that?
Yeah, I've heard that theory.
Yeah,
yes,
I don't
like
think
they didn't have any DNA from the envelopes.
Yeah,
like we can't figure this out.
You guys, this is my investigative team right there.
There are people on the internet who have spent their entire lives investigating this and didn't get it.
Yeah, man, you're quiet. You no thoughts on the Zodiac killer?
I mean, just terrifying. I watch a lot of the Netflix documentaries on all this stuff, and
you do.
Yeah, and my wife and I watch it, and my kids run out of the room because they're scared of it. So they're kind of like Grace.
Well, you should tell them not to be in the room to begin with, man. I mean, I'm trying to.
Well, my 12-year-old loves mysteries. She wants, but the moment they start showing these, murders,
you watch it like your 12-year-old watch this stuff.
She does. She's interested in it, man. Yeah. She's 12.
My kids were interested when they were 12 about certain things, and I didn't.
I do listen to hardcore rap music with my kid in the car every day, so we're all have different parenting styles.
Yeah, we listen to the Wiggles when my kids were little. Are the Wiggles still around?
I don't know what that means.
That's a good question.
You don't know what do you know, Manny? You know the Wiggles, right?
I remember the Wiggles, yeah, but I haven't seen them in years.
I went to a Wiggles concert at Municipal Auditorium in Nashville, and the Titans defensive coordinator, who's head coach in Detroit, and Jim, whatever, but he was sitting right in front of me and just seeing the Titans defensive coordinator dancing to the Wiggles with his kid.
Jim Caldwell, you're talking about?
No,
okay.
Jim.
Okay.
He's been around. I just blank on his name, but well-traveled defensive coordinator. But seeing him dance to the Wiggles, I will never forget that. Are we ready for a little trivia?
What do you think about the Titans' new football stadium and how you have to fund that through your taxes?
I'm not a huge fan. In fact, I don't pay attention to stuff that as close as I should because, I mean, it just sort of is what it is, and I probably don't know all the details, but I thought it was going to be no taxpayer money and all this stuff, and now I'm reading all this stuff. It's like $1.2 billion and all this stuff, and I live in Davidson. I live in Davidson County. I live in Nashville. There's a lot of people here that live in surrounding counties, which I guess the tax burden doesn't fall on them. So, don't love it, but
that's hilarious.
Yeah, what hilarious that
you have to pay more. Yeah.
No, glad you. Thanks for your sympathy. I hope the draft goes well for you tomorrow night, Ari.
The stadium looks sick, though. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it'll be cool. I mean, no doubt it'll be cool. All right, ready for a little trivia?
Let's go for it.
Okay.
How many people did the Zodiac killer kill?
It wasn't. How many was it? Like 8?
Like 12, I think.
Okay. Yeah. From 2000, this is from our 5-star research, our 3, 4, 5-star U research. So it's from 2009 through 2019.
So I should get this right?
No. I mean, maybe you get a couple of them but it's 8 programs signed 2 or fewer 4 stars, and they didn't sign any 5 stars. 4 signed 0 4 stars, and 4 signed 1 4-star. Can you name them?
Kansas. Is that one?
Yes.
Wake Forest.
Correct.
It's 0, 2, or 1?
No, 2. It's 1 or I probably it's 1 or fewer. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
0 or 1. 0 or 1.
0, right?
Wake in Kansas signed 0.
And
Georgia Tech.
And these are all Power 5s?
Yes. Georgia Tech.
Duke was 1, right?
Yes. Duke was one of the ones with 1. Yes. So we've gotten
Syracuse.
We got GT, Wake, Kansas, Duke, and Syracuse. Yes. So we've got 5.
Washington State.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, Manny.
Yes.
Just go to the bottom of the standings.
Northwestern on there?
So you got 2 more. No.
One or more.
Yeah,
Arizona.
so I was gonna say one of them is the alma mater of one of the co-hosts of the show.
Yeah.
Arizona. And you guys probably don't know this, but the other is the alma mater of one of my fellow college football editors.
Indiana.
Bingo.
Wow.
Good job, Grace.
Good job, Grace.
All right, that's a good team effort.
Close that out.
Collaboration. Everyone getting
She's got a
along.
big month ahead of her.
Former editor.
She's working together.
She's got a big month ahead of her, so she's just she's coming out swinging. I love that about you. Thanks for closing it out.
Yeah, and we haven't hammered out all the details, but in a few weeks we might have a show with all four of us in the same room at the College Football Summit.
That's gonna be exciting.
We'll see about that.
Ari's room's gonna be like 50 degrees. We're all gonna need.
Yeah, we're gonna do it in my room, and you have to have. A parka on. Yeah. Have you ever had a trip where you don't know where you're staying? Because that's happening to me right now, and I'm anxious about it.
In Chicago or
Chicago. Do we know where we're staying?
I think we were told at one point, but I really don't know. We had an editors meeting in Chicago a couple years ago. We stayed at a hotel downtown. I assume we're staying downtown.
We do.
Grace,
Have
you're gonna go running with us on the river?
Manny? I don't know what it is. Is it a Marriott?
It's not a Marriott.
Yeah. So, Ari, you want to go running with me when we're there?
Sure. Yeah, I have to work out all 4 days we're there, or 3 days we're there.
How much cardio do you do in your?
Quite a bit, because everything that I do is in between. I've got to do cardio in between everything. It's awful.
It's on the treadmill, or
it's all sorts of different types of cardio,
okay.
like throwing balls at each other and stuff. It's awful. I was gonna say something, but I forgot.
Are we gonna get a basketball game in? I mean, in Phoenix, it was kind of hot.
That was super hot. That was scorching. Yeah, it was outside. Yeah, Grace, how's your hoops game? We went over this, right? Yeah, you played hoops, right? When you're.
Yeah, I played high school basketball. My mid-range.
You played high school basketball?
Yeah, I did. Well, everyone in North Carolina plays high school basketball.
I didn't know that. Yeah,
were you a center?
Yeah, give us a comp. You know, what recent North Carolina or what North Carolina men's player from the last 20 years would you compare your game to?
Would I compare my game to?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Armando Bacot?
I wish. I love Armando. Ari, you don't know this about me, but
yes, she loves Armando Bacot.
Mitch about how much I love Armando Bacot.
Rashawn McCants.
Yeah, Mike Zimmerman's and Rashawn McCants.
I still have a Tyler Hansbrough poster in my childhood room.
Oh, nice. I did not know you played. Did you start like your senior year?
Well, so I went to boarding school, as
right.
you know.
Yeah.
So the level of competition was a little sus.
Did you get buckets, Grace? Yes or no?
So yes, I started. Yes, but
did you get buckets?
How many points did you average?
I
need a stat line.
10? I don't know.
10?
8? 10?
This is amazing.
I'm gonna start calling you Dr. Buckets.
Yeah, you average 10 points a game. This is amazing.
Okay, let me tell you this though. My high school.
You need to hoop with us.
This is how it is in boarding school. Like my high school basketball team, like there were like 2 people who could make a left-handed layup. Like it was just not. Were you one of them? Yes, I was,
okay.
but it was rough.
Did they draw plays for you? Like coming out of a timeout down 2? Was it like get the ball to Grace and clear out?
No, we lost like every game. Like literally we beat the homeschoolers once, which was pretty awesome.
Nerds.
How do you get the homeschoolers together? What, do they all like go to the park and practice after school? I don't know how that works. I really don't.
No, they're like homeschool. Like Gabe's high school baseball team last year played homeschoolers. They beat us.
Did they win?
Yeah.
You lost to the homeschoolers?
We split, but they embarrassed us. Yeah. We split. We beat them at home. They beat us on the road.
They didn't have a field.
They were like just some like the Titans or just some made up name. You know, it wasn't like anything reflective.
Could you imagine my father trying to homeschool me?
I can't with Ari right now.
What about you trying to homeschool?
Is there any verification that they're passing the tests?
You have to take tests, standardized tests, I believe, and stuff.
I know, but are they proctored by their parents?
I think so. It's becoming more. I actually have, Gabe, I coached a bunch of kids who were in a rec league who were homeschoolers, and they were perfectly good kids and normal and well adjusted. Their parents, sometimes they live out in the country.
You could scam the system, is what I'm saying, because.
Yeah, but you still got to take like the SAT and stuff, right?
The SAT is optional, isn't it? It's only if you want to go to
now.
College.
But yeah, I mean, to get your high school degree, you got to pass certain state tests. So I don't know. Probably speaking out of turn here. I don't know. So, but I'm just for the Grace was a double-digit score.
Not double-digit.
Double.
Double. Yeah.
That's probably a stretch.
So how many D1 offers did you have coming out of high school?
In her last game, she had 10 points, 13 rebounds, 14 assists, and 12 blocks. That's a quadruple double right there, man.
Nice.
One of my teammates played at Presbyterian. That was like
Really?
that was like the pinnacle. She was really good. Yeah.
You ever lock her up?
So it sounds like you were the second best player on the team.
I don't know about that either. My freshman year team was really good. We won the conference, and then it went just completely kaputs after that.
Like, did you have to travel a lot for games because you were boarding school? Like, were there schools?
Yeah, I went to
close by?
Raven Gap. The story.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, I went there. Yeah, but the Asheville area has like a decent number of schools in the area.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna come up for next pod. We're gonna interrogate you more about
last time we played with the Athletic. Were you guys there for that?
Say that again.
Eric Single was when we played pickup in whatever city it was. He like just absolutely annihilated me. I like fell over. It was
really? That was an Indy. That was when I was the national.
There's video of it somewhere. It's like the worst moment ever.
Yeah, so we played in Arizona outside a little bit, and I remember.
I'll tell you one thing: if I'm teeing you up, Grace, I'm playing like you're not scoring on me. I'm not allowing you to humiliate me like you humiliated all those high schoolers that you went against.
No, I was so bad at our
those poor kids from homeschool that you were breaking their ankles.
No, we won like 44-43 or something. It was a real thriller.
So did you hit a buzzer beater?
No, probably not.
Did you shoot one more question? What was your free throw percentage?
93%.
It was not that good, honestly.
Did you get to the line much?
Yeah, I just that was basically what I did every time. I just went to the paint, went to the foul line, and missed. Like that was the whole game.
So not only do these homeschool kids have to be at home all day, then they go out and get
interaction
with their friends, and then you go in there and put a shoulder on them in the paint. Is that what's happening?
I drew a lot of fouls. I didn't make all my foul shots, but I did draw.
So you're James Harden, is what you're saying, without the free throw attempt.
Yeah, and without the beard as well. Yeah. So, all right, this is digressed.
Yeah, this has gone off the rails again.
I was gonna say, you ready for trivia, but we did trivia it seems like 20 minutes ago before we found out that Grace is a high school legend in Carolina.
Oh my gosh.
So, Ari,
thank you for listening to Stars Matter. We will catch you next week.